Hello, I'm Tony Guida. This is My New York. My guest today has written 15 books, some poetry, one play, all in addition to his day job, newspaperman. One of the finest sports columnists this country has produced, Jerry Eisenberg, still writing for the Newark Star Ledger after 63 years. And now comes this Eisenberg's first novel, After the Fire. Love and Hate in the Ashes of 1967. Set in Newark after the riots and brimming with racial tension, corrupt politics, and a forbidden love affair. Eisenberg, by the way, just turned 90. You'll meet him next. Jerry Eisenberg, I am so delighted to have you on the program. Welcome.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, thank you. Uh, a first novel at 90 years of age. What took you so long, Jerry?
Well, it was how did I do it? It was number one on my bucket list, and I figured now I'm 90. You never know. Let me get the damn thing started.
Yeah. Well, you got it started and it's out there, and it's quite a story with several plots. But I guess the heart of it, what would you say? The heart of it is this interracial relationship between
It
a white young man and an African American woman.
Well, it is, but that was the whole problem. There are four plots. The city, very important. The publisher wanted to cut the riot, which is the prologue. She wanted to
Yeah.
make it much shorter. And I said, without the riot, you can't know the city. Without the city, you can't know the people. Without the people, you can't know the boy and girl. And so that's why we kept it the way it was, thank God. And it's more simple than it sounds. Newark was a tough place, and very different than it was when I was born. The riot came in '67, so I was 37 years old. And there'd been intense hatred building. This was a genuine riot against the police. It really was. Newark police had a terrible reputation for it. And what touched off the riot was a savage beating of a cab driver who broke a traffic law. And once it started, there was no stopping it. That played against the backdrop of the Italians in Newark and the blacks in Newark now being the majority. And as it got worse, more people left Newark. So in the end, the two groups were fighting for political control of the city. So I have an election there because the mayor really was indicted. The election is fake, of course. And the mafia comes in to fix the election because they want to know who's going to get to drive the garbage trucks.
Right. Yeah,
And
just to set it a little more firmly, a fellow named Hugh Adonisio,
yeah,
Italian American, was the mayor at this time. But there was an election coming,
yeah, but it came in real life. It came much later.
yeah, it came 2 years
Yeah,
later.
yeah.
But Ken Gibson, the first black mayor, the first black man elected as a mayor of a major city, was
Yeah.
finally elected. But as you say, the Italians and the African Americans, I remember covering Newark, the Italians in the North Ward and the African Americans in the Central Ward,
Right.
and it was like the Hatfields and McCoys.
Well, it was, well, if you want to understand it, yeah. Bloomfield Avenue was the heart and soul of the Italian community in Newark. And it was an artery, a big one. And there were a lot of Italians. So they came in the early 1800s. And they felt that this was their province and no blacks were going to come onto the street. They were going to defend the street. The blacks are more interested in being able to go anywhere. Barringer High School, where the heroine and the hero went to high school, they passed each other in the hall 4 years, never spoke a word. At one point, Barringer had 1,400 kids and all the names ended in vowels. And then the Board of Education said, well, we're going to open up all this, let them go where who wants to go. 40 blacks showed up the first year. The way they solved it was by not talking to each other. So this girl passes this boy in the hall. They stand behind each other in the cafeteria. They don't speak a word for 4 years. She knows his name because he's captain of the football team. He doesn't know who she is. 3 chapters into the book, or 5 months after the riot, they both get summer jobs. He gets it because the Italians are still controlling the city, and he's got a summer job at the post office. The post office is trying to bring more black kids in for the summer. She gets it. They wind up sorting mail next to each other. And after some very harsh words, the romance begins. But the point of the romance is it's the glue that holds the whole book together. What happens to them is real. Hey, my wife is an Afro-American. We started dating 7, 8 years after the riot. We didn't have an easy time. In some other places around the country, it was even worse. But 5 months after the Newark riot, a black girl, a white guy could not hold hands walking down the street anywhere in the city. And it's hatred and it's desperation, but most of all, it's hope. And the book ends on a note of hope.
I know you've talked about that, the hope. I mean, and as you pointed out earlier, you without the setting, without understanding the city, you don't understand the characters. And you do bring in some interesting characters. There are cameos from Joe DiMaggio and Yogi Berra and Gil Hodges and Joe Namath. And there's even, Jerry, a cameo, a little bit more than a cameo,
It's more
from
than a
an
cameo.
award-winning sports writer shows up in this.
Oh, I don't know who he is. I have no idea who he is. But I'll tell you this, you left out the biggest cameo of all, and that is the chairman of the board, Frank Sinatra.
Ah, of
Who
course.
comes to the city and is involved in the way the mafia makes peace. But as far as the Jerry D'Amelio, who meets with the mafia and whatever, and he's a pure, you know, it ain't me because he's a Pulitzer Prize winning sports writer. That was never me. But I use my contacts with the mafia for D'Amelio to meet with various guys. And the anecdotes in there about Frankie Castellano, Rocky, who gets knocked out, and the manager jumps in the ring and he punches the referee. That's a real mafioso.
We're talking about Jerry Eisenberg's first novel, After the Fire, Love and Hate in the Ashes of 1967. How well did you know the mafia guys?
Very, very well. I spent a lot of time in boxing. It was unavoidable. I tell you, in New York City, the old Garden was, I think, between 56 and 58, but it was on 8th Avenue. And catty corner across from that garden was the Garden Cafeteria. Couldn't do a thing on Friday night, it was fights. Tuesday and Thursday were basketball. But on Wednesdays, Mr. Gray, who was really Frankie Carbo, had a table in that cafeteria, and all the managers would come to the cafeteria begging for fights. And he worked with a cup of black coffee at a table that nobody else would dare sit in. And that's how they did business in boxing. And I knew all those guys. I knew them all. And some of them were tough guys. Frankie Carbo was a tough guy. He had 7 kills. And, you know, I got to tell you a funny story about Carbo. And I'll try to keep it tight. Carbo gets a call to go up to the Carteret Hotel in Elizabeth, New Jersey, on the outskirts of Newark, and kill Big Greenie. The mob, for whatever reason, is unhappy with Big Greenie. And they tell him, by the way, if anybody else is in the room, we don't want any witnesses, you kill everybody. So he does. He takes the gun and drops it in a wastebasket. He goes across the street to the police station, where all the cops are on the pad with the family, okay? He comes and says, I just did a terrible thing, but I can't help it. And the cop behind the desk says, well, that must have been self-defense, right, Frankie? And he said, absolutely. Well, I'll tell you what, we can hide you for a little time and we'll get it straightened out. So they put him in a cell in the back of the thing. Willie the Beard Gilzenberg, you couldn't make these names up if you tried. Willie the Beard Gilzenberg was a local fight promoter and very, very well connected. He had no main event for February. And he sees where the lightweight champion of the world, who is under contract, there's no contract, but the mafia has him. And Carbo has him. He'll go into the jail and he'll make a fight. That way, the guy they won't take the guy's title, and he's got a fighter. He'll cut both ends. He'll cut the fighter, and he'll get the gate. It'll be at his joint. He goes in, and the desk sergeant says, "Well, I got to see if he's busy first. He's in jail." So the desk sergeant comes back and says, "He give you 5 minutes, but make it fast because he's very busy right now. It's dinner time." Frank, he walks into the back of the thing. The cell door is open. Frank is getting a manicure. And while he's getting the manicure, the five-star restaurant, which the mob owned in Newark, called the Tavern, the waiters, all with big, the old-fashioned waiters with the aprons, they're setting up his dinner table with flowers in the middle and everything else. And he says, "I never heard of you to Gil." He says, "What do you want?" And he tells him his story. They're going to take your fighter's title. He says, "No one's taking my title." And then he explains what he will do to Gilzenberg if he tries. And Gilzenberg says, "It's not me. It's the commission. It's not me. Fight my guy. My guy can't spell fight, much less do it. You got to win. You keep the title. Everything is fine." Okay. So he says, "Okay, but you got to go down to Pineapple Street in Brooklyn." Like I said, you can't make this.
I love this.
American Social Club, and ask for Joey A. Well, that's Joey Adonis. He goes in. Guy says, "I'll give you 5 minutes." He tells him his story. He says, "Look, I don't want to hear like history about taking the tie. That means nothing to me. He approved the match. You got the match." And Gilly says, "Just like that?" He says, "Of course, usual rules." Well, Gilly says, "Well, what are the usual rules?" "Well, your fighter wins, we own him." "Well, when do I get my fighter back?" "After he loses."
Jerry, oh my goodness, the mafia is in this book. The stars, the cameos, the young couple. There's so much to enjoy in After the Fire, Love and Hate in the Ashes of '67. I'm so glad you got around to this on your bucket list. Let me talk about you and your sports career a little bit. You were among the first to be advocating racial and social justice. I mean, the profession you were in is pretty conservative or reactionary, whatever you want to call it. And there you
Or
were,
asleep.
huh?
Or asleep.
Yeah, or sleep.
Ignoring
And there
everything.
you were talking about and advocating for and supporting and trying to get people to understand people like Larry Doby and Muhammad Ali. And as you think back to those times and reflecting now from where you are, it doesn't seem like an awful lot of, in some cases, an awful lot of progress has been made. I mean, especially in baseball, there's the lack of black players, black managers, black front office. What do you think about that?
Guys who might be uh, baseball players today are power forwards, um, linebackers, scatbacks. So that was American culture. They went where the money was, but it was been horrible for them. Look, Larry, I did the eulogy at Larry's funeral. Larry Doby was the second black man to play baseball in the major leagues.
Yes.
He came out of the Newark Eagles of the Black and Negro National League. Bill Veeck had faith in him and brought him in, but it was totally different than Jackie, and people don't understand this. Jackie Robinson had a club owner who said, "If you don't want to play with my guy, I'll trade you." And he did. He traded him to the worst team in the league, Pittsburgh, deliberately. But the fact is, Jackie had a team with teammates. They were on his side all the time once they got rid of the malcontents. Larry comes to Cleveland with the owner's full support, a great man, Bill Veeck. The manager didn't want him. The players didn't want him. He goes down to be introduced the day he shows up. And the manager, Lou Boudreau, says, "All right, everybody get in your lockers. This is a guy that Mr. Veeck says could help us." That's a hell of an introduction. So he goes to shake hands, 25 players, 4 coaches, equipment manager, 3 guys shake his hand. Everybody else turns and faces the wall. That's the way he starts. St. Louis Browns had a guy they paid to stand in the first row over the batting circle. And when Larry would get in the bat, he'd be yelling about Larry, and Larry said, well, he said, nigger, nigger, this. And he said, that didn't bother me. By then I had my baptism of fire. But when he started talking about my wife, and he said, she spells her name H-E-L-Y, and she's one of those uppity ones. I'm going to tell you, and he had a megaphone. I'm going to tell everybody what she did for me in my hotel room last night. That was it. Larry said, I don't care anymore. Got out of the bat. He didn't need the bat to handle this guy. Put one foot over the railing, and suddenly he's soaring through the air and he's on his back. And one of the guys who shook his hand, Mike McCormick, who was a batting coach, was on top of him. And he said, Dobes, don't make another move. You go into those stands. You'll never play another game. And these bastards will never give us another black player in the American League for 20 years. And he saved his career. Larry had it tough wherever he went. He was a marvelous guy. He was my friend. And I had to laugh. They kept him out of the Hall of Fame so long. And then I started writing columns. You got to put him in. And I wrote a column and sent it to every member of the Veterans Committee. And now that included Monty Irvin, Ted Williams, and Yogi. And they were voting for him, but they couldn't get enough votes. I got a letter from me. It was a nasty column. I said, why am I not surprised that you guys, you didn't want him to play baseball in the first place. Now it's asking too much to put him in the Hall of Fame. And I get a letter back from Ted Williams. And he says, listen, you fat son of a bitch. I've been voting, and Monty's been voting, and the third guy, Yogi's been voting for 5 years to put him in there. So you get off your fat ass and get the votes we needed. And he got in that year.
Yes, he did. What talking here about baseball and Larry Doby reminds me that I don't know what, a couple of months ago, Major League Baseball finally recognized the Negro Leagues in a long overdue decision, and one that frankly I thought was appallingly tone deaf. By saying, in their statement, MLB saying we're elevating the Negro Leagues to major league status. But leaving that aside, you wrote a column and you talked about the centerpiece of that column was the idea that, okay, great, but a little too late for some pretty interesting people, two of them being Negro League pitchers. Tell us that story.
Well, they did get in before they put 17 in a one shot later on. But look, Leon Day was a right-handed pitcher with the Newark Eagles of the Negro National League. He was among the best right-handers I ever saw in my life. Beyond that, he might have been the best athlete ever to play baseball because he played every single game. He pitched every fourth day, but he hit 316, 320 the year that they won the Negro League World Series, and he played every single game.
This is Leon Day.
Leon Day. Now, Leon, the second pitcher on that staff was a great guy named Max Manning. So Leon is dying. Leon knows it, and Max knows it. They had been roommates. So Max drives down to Baltimore to the hospital to see him, and he knows it's goodbye. They're sitting and they're talking about the time Leon unloaded ammunition on the beach on D-Day, and Max drove for Patton the gasoline, and they're talking about just what they missed out on, and they mention the fact that Leon comes back from the war, pitches a no-hitter on opening day against the Baltimore Light Giants. It's the bottom of the ninth, 0-0. He turns to the team and he says, we're never going to get out of here unless I do something. He gets up and hits a home run, and they all go home, and he's got the winning run, and he's got the no-hitter, and whatever. And nobody in baseball knew anything about Major League Baseball knew anything about. All right, he's dying. So they're sitting there talking, and the nurse comes in with a white guy who's a reporter for the Baltimore Sun. And she says, Mr. Day, I'm going to introduce you to this man from the local newspaper. He's got something to tell you. And she says, all right. He says, Mr. Day, it gives me great pride and honor to tell you, you have been voted into the Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown. Leon looks at Max. By the way, the story was told to me by Max. Leon looks at Max and he says, "That's nice, isn't it?" And he winks. And then the guy says, "I got to ask you this question. I'm sorry, but you know why I have to ask it. How do you feel about never having played in the big leagues?" He turns to Max again, and he's dying, and he winks again. And he looks at the reporter and he says, "Listen, Sonny, you have been severely misinformed. I
Mm.
played in the major leagues. I don't know whether those white boys could have made our league or not."
That's a lovely story. With your book, as you say, the sort of the crux of it is about hope. I wonder what your thoughts are these days, given in the last couple of years all the police killings of African American men and in a couple of cases women. Uh, does that what does that do to someone who is writing about and thinking about hope?
Well, first of all, I don't condemn the police departments. I mean, as police departments, it would be a hell of a fix without them. Conversely, the incidence of killings, I think, is larger because now they're reported. They used to walk away from them. It didn't mean nobody was bothering them, so they did whatever they wanted. But I look at what's happening here as almost like a cancer operation. And the doctor says, "Well, we got that, we got it. But I think we missed a few other things." And that's what hope and reform have not yet been able to accomplish. I think we're moving toward it. I think this country, look, I'm going to quote a very good, like a 50-year old, for 50 years, our friendship, Muhammad Ali and me. And the BBC had asked me to do a piece for them on how he felt about America now and not about boxing, you know.
This is roughly what year, Jerry?
Oh, the year before Ken Norton, be in the 80s.
Okay.
And we're talking, and I said to him, "Well, Mohammed, what do you think of the Black Panthers?" And he wouldn't put them down, but he said, "Look," he said, "they're out of touch. Their method ain't going to work." He said, "Because I believe in my lifetime, but not in yours, we will see the black-white thing play," because he's 11 years younger than me. We'll see the black-white thing play out. And then the only thing that'll matter is green. And then because he's Ali, he said to me, "And I'm going to get a lot of that." But look, I'm not a Pollyanna kind of guy, and I will say this, and if I'm still alive at 90, maybe I got a hell of a nerve saying it, because the virus, the COVID virus is horrible, horrible. If that doesn't teach us that everybody needs each other, I look at the frontline workers. I see black nurses, I see Latino nurses, I see white nurses. I don't see any of them say, "Well, it's not my job to do this or do that," or whatever. I think there's a lesson to be learned, and I hate to be preaching about it, but I'd love to see things get a lot better before I leave. I don't know if that'll happen, but I do believe we're going to reach a day when it's going to be okay.
Amen. Amen to that. I hope you're right. I, who could take exception to that?
They're out there. You got to read my mailbag.
Well, of course, but Jerry, there's so much to talk to you about, and I think we wrap it up this way by saying, here you are at 90, still alert to whatever is going on in the world, every cross current of social issue and others, and still writing, and have just written this novel, After the Fire, Love and Hate in the Ashes of 67. And apparently you have 3 more books you want to write yet.
Oh, yeah. I'm working on a humor book now called Growing Up Jewish in Newark, New Jersey. And it's pretty funny, I think. I also want to do Larry Doby's biography. Actually, there's 4 books. I'm going to do, the racetrack is such a great tomorrow sport. No matter who's losing, I'll get them tomorrow. I mean, that's the mentality of the bettor. That's why they die broke. But I'm going to do a thing about all the funny things and some of the sad things I've seen on the racetrack, called I Got the Horse Right Here.
Mm-hmm.
And in the last book I'm going to do, is going to be called Made in America. It is about all the prejudice I saw through my own eyes, starting at the age of 7 when they turned my grandfather's tombstone over and drew a swastika on it. All the prejudice that I saw with her own eyes, my Afro-American wife, all the prejudice we saw together. And I'll tell you this, if you want an explanation, the last chapter is called Charlottesville.
I got it. All right. Which of these books you think is coming first? Because I want to make a date with you to come back here.
Glowing Jewish in Newark, New Jersey will be the first. It's half done. It's not, the novel is 110,000 words. Thank God for if, and but. I was running out of language. But the Jewish book will be about 60. It's humorous, and I will tell you one thing. I've got the end in my mind, even though I've got half a book to go.
I want you back here as soon as that book is coming out. Will you be back with us for another appearance?
Well, that may be out of my hands. I look upstairs, and that's where the decision will be made. I fully expect to be here. I fully expect to be around. If you want to make a deal for all 4 books, I'll sign right now.
Good. The deal is done. Sealed. Jerry Eisenberg, what a delight. Good to see you. Stay well and keep writing.
Thank you for everything.
Thank you.